My mom keeps making my wedding plans difficult, so I kind of canceled whatever that was. IDK, if it even counts as a wedding.
Hi everyone, this is my first post like this, so please bear with me. Also, English isn't my first language, so I apologize if something doesn't make sense or feels awkward. I'll do my best to be clear. My name is Izzy, I'm 23 years old, and I'm getting married soon, early January to be exact. My fiance proposed a few months ago, and we were both pretty laid back about wedding planning. Neither of us wanted anything elaborate or over the top. Both of our families offered to help with the arrangements, and since we're just starting our lives together, new jobs, moving into our first shared place, it seemed natural to keep things small and simple. A civil ceremony now, and maybe later, when we're more settled and financially stable, we could plan a bigger, more traditional wedding. For a bit of context, I'm an atheist, but oddly enough, I've always dreamed of a church wedding. I know it sounds strange given my beliefs, but something about it feels right. Maybe it's the symbolism or the sense of occasion. Either way, my fiance and I decided to save that dream for later when we could afford to do it exactly how we want. Now here's where things get tricky. My family, well, they're not the easiest people to deal with. My mom and I have a rocky relationship. She can be overbearing and controlling, and although my dad and I get along better, he almost always sides with her to keep the peace. When I told my mom about the small civil ceremony idea, she seemed supportive, or so I thought. A few days later, I found out she had gone ahead and hired a wedding planner without telling me. Not only that, but she sent me an insanely expensive budget that she had drafted with the planner. Her rationale? You're the bride. You should have the wedding of your dreams. But let's be honest, it wasn't my dream she was talking about, it was hers. To make matters worse, while my family could afford to cover a significant portion of the costs, my fiance's family couldn't. When I explained this to my mom, she dismissed it entirely, saying, "It's his family's responsibility too. This is their son's wedding." Her tone made it clear she wasn't willing to compromise. Fast forward a bit. After a lot of back and forth arguments and tension, we reached a sort of compromise. The main event would be a small family dinner at a steakhouse on Friday, January 3rd, with about 30 guests. It wasn't exactly my vision, but it felt manageable and aligned with our original goal of simplicity. My mom, however, wasn't satisfied. She started planning a secondary event, a signing ceremony at a family-owned venue, because in her words, the steakhouse was too informal to invite her friends. I agreed to the signing ceremony on December 28th just to keep the peace. I hoped it would stop the arguments, but it didn't. The tension only escalated. Here's an example of how chaotic things have gotten. As a foreigner, I need specific documents for the marriage to be legally recognized. When I went to the courthouse to file them, my copies were rejected. Thankfully, my fiance's dad offered to help expedite the process through some contacts he has. I called my mom to update her, telling her the most likely date for the signing would be January 3rd, our originally planned date, and she lost her mind. She started yelling, accusing me of forgetting that we'd agreed the signing would happen on December 28th and the dinner would be on January 4th. She seemed genuinely upset, but I was confused because we'd already settled these details weeks ago. I've been meticulous about keeping notes to avoid exactly this type of situation. Yet somehow she managed to twist the narrative, claiming I was being inconsiderate and indecisive. Later that day, she sent me a text, completely reversing her stance. She insisted the wedding and dinner should both happen on January 3rd, even though the steakhouse couldn't accommodate us on that date due to the guest count. When I reminded her of this, she got defensive, saying I wasn't involving her enough. It felt like every decision my fiance and I made was a personal affront to her. The breaking point came tonight. She called and asked me to come over, but insisted I leave my phone at home because she didn't want me recording the conversation. She does this a lot with her university professors, so it didn't seem out of character. When I arrived, she started yelling, saying she would withdraw all financial support and cancel everything if I didn't comply with her plans. She even accused my fiance's family of manipulating me and said no one would love me more than her because family is forever. I felt trapped and exhausted. When I got home, I called my fiance and asked if we could cancel everything. He was supportive, even relieved. He admitted he was only going along with the big event for me, but he'd be just as happy to have a quiet, private ceremony. Hearing that lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. I told my dad about my decision. He seemed conflicted but didn't push back too much. I know he'll tell my mom, and I have no idea how she'll react tomorrow. Honestly, I'm scared. I just want to marry the person I love without all this drama. Update 1. So, I wrote that post yesterday, and honestly, I didn't expect this much feedback. I'm truly thankful. It made me feel less alone, and I even showed the comments to my fiance. He was surprised by the sheer number of responses, so thank you all for caring so much. Seriously, To clear up a few things, yes, I live with my parents, and yes, I want to get married before moving in with my significant other. Why? Well, even though I'm an atheist, there are certain values I was raised with that are hard to completely let go of. It's complicated, I know. My relationship with my mom has always been tough. She's a manipulative evangelical, and while I have no issues with religion itself, I do take issue with how she uses it. For example, she once called me a slut after finding some photos on my phone that I had shared with a long-distance boyfriend years ago. Not only that, but she banned me from talking to my brother or dad, touching my dog, and she even removed my room and bathroom doors. She grounded me for 6 months. No phone, no TV, no conversations with my family. Instead, she gave me a Christian book to read. During that time, my brother was just a teenager, so I was the one doing all the housework, cooking, cleaning, everything because both my parents work. My dad has always just gone along with her decisions, so I won't get into him right now. But yeah, this gives you an idea of the kind of person my mom is. Now, back to the wedding stuff. It reminds me so much of my 15th birthday, my quinceañera. My mom decided on everything. My dress, the guest list. She even invited people who used to bully me. I didn't eat anything that day because I needed to look good and greet everyone. I honestly think she sees me as some kind of reflection of the life she wanted for herself. It's just a guess, but that's how it feels. Today wasn't any easier. I went to my fiance's house to escape my parents and have some time for myself, but before I left, my dad came into my room in the morning. He suggested we do a small ceremony at our house the day before the planned wedding. His tone was almost like he was trying to compromise, but I had already made up my mind that I wasn't going to budge. My face was swollen from crying the night before, and I told him straight up that if we'd considered this idea earlier, maybe I could have talked to my fiancé about it. But as of now, I'm done. A few hours later, my mom came into my room with the same suggestion. She was weirdly nice. It didn't feel like her. She seemed shy, which threw me off. I repeated what I told my dad and added, it would be better if we didn't have to worry about this anymore. She seemed mad but tried to hold it in. Then she started complaining, something along the lines of how I never talk to her or share my opinions. She said that if I just talked to her more, she'd have a better understanding of what I want. It felt like a guilt trip, honestly. Later, my fiancé picked me up and I showed him my post. He was super invested in the comments and even shared a few with me. Again, thank you all for the feedback. It gave me the strength to stick to my decision. A few hours passed and my mom called. I put her on speakerphone and it was strange. She apologized, but it sounded so half-hearted. She said, "I'm sorry about how I acted yesterday, I guess." My fiancé gave me a what the hell look, then she added, "I know I didn't act okay, I think." It felt like she was trying to apologize without fully admitting fault. After that, she tried again to convince me about doing the extra ceremony. I said no firmly. A couple of hours later, she called again, saying she'd bought some items for our house. Kitchen stuff like pans and utensils. I thanked her, but honestly, it hurt. It's her pattern. When my parents know they've crossed a line, they buy us things or give us a hug, as if that erases everything. I appreciated the gesture, but I also felt manipulated, like she thought these gifts would guilt me into sticking with her plans. But I'm not changing my mind. That's all for today. Sorry if it's not much of an update, but I wanted to share. Thanks again for the comments and support. It really gave me the strength to say no. Update 2. Hey everyone! So here we are again. I honestly didn't expect my last post to blow up the way it did, but I've got to say, reading your comments has been a game changer for me. A lot of what you all said hit me like a ton of bricks, especially about boundaries, which, let's be real, have been pretty much non-existent in my life. And honestly, thank you. I really needed to hear all of it. The past few days have been intense, to say the least. After my post, I did a lot of thinking, probably more than I've done in a long time. Your advice made me realize that this whole wedding mess is just the tip of the iceberg. This isn't about one event, it's about years, decades really, of my mom controlling every little thing in my life. And I've just let her because it was easier than dealing with the fallout of standing up to her. Yesterday, I finally decided to grow a backbone. Well, at least a small one. I started with my dad. He's always been the quiet one, the guy who avoids conflict like it's his job, but I needed him to hear me, like really hear me. So I waited until my mom was out of the house and asked him to talk. It wasn't easy. I laid everything out, the wedding, my childhood, the way my mom's behavior has made me feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells. I told him about the time she called me a slut and ripped the doors off my room and bathroom, about my quinceañera where she made every decision for me and invited people who bullied me, and about how all of this has made me question whether I even want to go through with this wedding. I could tell he was uncomfortable.
My dad doesn't like talking about feelings or conflict, but this time, he actually listened. Like, he didn't interrupt, didn't try to defend her, didn't brush me off. For once, it felt like he actually saw me as a person with real emotions instead of just his kid who has to deal with it. When I told him, this isn't just about the wedding, it's about me trying to build a life where I actually feel respected, he looked sad, maybe even guilty. It felt like he finally got it.
Then came the harder part, talking to my mom.
I'll be honest, I was dreading this. My mom has a way of turning everything into a drama fest, and I wasn't in the mood to deal with another round of her tears and guilt trips. But I knew I had to do it, so I sat her down and said, as calmly as I could, Mom, I love you, but this is my wedding. If you can't respect my decisions, then I'll have to move forward without you being involved. She didn't explode, which was honestly a shock. She just stared at me for a minute, and then the tears started. I just want you to be happy, she said. But it didn't feel genuine. It felt like one of those lines you say to make someone feel bad for standing up to you. I stayed firm though. I told her, if that's true, then you'll respect what I want, even if it's not what you would have done. I could tell she wasn't happy, but she didn't argue much. Instead, she got quiet, which might be worse because now I feel like she's plotting something. That's her MO. When she's quiet, it usually means she's thinking of a way to flip the situation back in her favor. After that, my fiance and I talked, and we've decided to stick to our original plans. A small ceremony, a dinner with close family, and nothing else. No big reunion, no unnecessary drama. It's our wedding, and we're done trying to make everyone else happy at the expense of our own sanity. I'm not going to lie and say I feel amazing or that everything is magically better now. This is still hard. My mom probably isn't going to change, and I know she'll keep trying to push boundaries because that's just who she is. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I've taken back a little bit of control. To everyone who shared your stories, advice, and support, thank you. You've helped me see that my happiness matters and that it's okay to say no even when it's scary. I don't know what's going to happen next, but at least now I feel a little more prepared to deal with it. Wish me luck. I'm probably going to need it, and don't worry, I'll keep you all updated. Update 3. Hey everyone! I did not expect to be back with another update so soon, but here we are. Things have been chaotic to say the least. If you thought my last post was messy, buckle up because the drama has somehow reached new heights. First off, I want to thank everyone again for your support and advice. So, where do I even start? After my last conversation with my mom, I thought things might settle down a bit. She seemed like she was reluctantly accepting my boundaries, even though I could tell she was not thrilled about it. I was cautiously optimistic that we had reached some kind of uneasy truce, but of course that was too good to be true. It all started 2 days ago when my fiance and I were finalizing some of the smaller wedding details. We were going through the guest list, making sure everything was in order, and double-checking our plans for the day. That is when I got a text from my mom. It was a long message, and at first I thought it was another one of her guilt trip essays, but then I realized it was something worse. She had taken it upon herself to invite a few additional people to the wedding without asking me. Let me be clear, these were not just random distant relatives or family friends. She invited a couple of people I have explicitly said I did not want there, including one of my childhood bullies and her overly judgmental church friend who has made my life miserable in the past. I was furious, like shaking with anger furious. I immediately called her and asked her what the hell she was thinking. Her response? I just thought it would be nice to include a few more people. It is not a big deal. Not a big deal? I told her in no uncertain terms that this was completely unacceptable and that I would be uninviting those people myself. She started crying, of course, and saying things like, I just want you to have a nice wedding, and why do you always assume the worst about me? At that point, I was done. I told her, Mom, this is exactly why I set boundaries in the first place. You keep crossing the line and doing things behind my back. If you keep this up, you are going to push me to the point where I will not want you involved at all. She got quiet after that, which, as I have learned, is not a good sign. When my mom is quiet, it means she is plotting something. Fast forward to the next day, my fiance and I were out running errands when I got a call from my dad. He sounded stressed and told me that my mom had been acting upset all day. He asked if I could come over and talk to her to smooth things over. I told him that I had already said everything I needed to say and that it was not my responsibility to fix her feelings. Later that evening, I got another call, this time from one of the relatives she had invited without my permission. They said something along the lines of, "Oh, your mom told us the great news that we are invited to the wedding. We are so excited to come." I had to awkwardly explain that there had been a misunderstanding and that they were not, in fact, invited. It was embarrassing and infuriating, and I could feel my blood boiling all over again. When I confronted my mom about it, she acted completely clueless. She said, "I do not know why they would think that. I never told them anything," which was obviously a lie because who else would have told them? At this point, my fiance and I have had enough. We sat down together last night and made the difficult decision to enforce an even stricter boundary. If my mom tries to interfere again, she will not be welcome at the wedding. It is a drastic step, but I feel like she has left us no choice. Honestly, I am exhausted. The constant drama, the emotional manipulation, the stress, it is all taking a toll on me. But at the same time, I feel more determined than ever to protect my happiness in my relationship. My fiance has been my rock through all of this, and I am so grateful to have him by my side. For now, we are sticking to our plans and moving forward as best we can. I know there is still a long road ahead, but I'm trying to stay focused on what really matters, starting this new chapter of my life on my own terms. Thank you all for listening and for being such a supportive community. I cannot tell you how much it means to me. I will keep you updated if anything else happens, and let us be real, something probably will. Wish me luck, I think I'm gonna need it. Update 4.
Hey everyone, I cannot believe I am back with another update. Honestly, I am exhausted, and if you are here expecting a happy resolution, I hate to disappoint you. It is not happening yet. Things are still a mess, and somehow they keep getting worse. I have reread some of your advice so many times, especially when I feel like I'm about to lose my mind. It helps knowing I am not crazy for standing up for myself. Now here is what has been going on. After my last update, I was cautiously optimistic that my mom might back off a little. She seemed to accept my boundaries, even if it was clear she was not happy about it. I thought maybe, just maybe, we had reached some sort of uneasy peace. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. Yesterday morning, my fiance and I were finishing breakfast when my phone started blowing up with texts and missed calls. My mom, of course. At first I ignored it because I just could not deal with whatever new drama she was trying to stir up. But then I got a text from my dad and it got my attention. It just said, "Your mom is upset, please call her." So I called. Big mistake. The moment she answered, it was like she had been waiting to unload on me. She started yelling about how I was ruining the family and tearing everything apart. Then she hit me with the classic guilt-tripping lines. "After everything I have done for you, and you are so ungrateful." She even threw in, "You have changed since you got with him," like my fiance is somehow the reason I am finally standing up to her. I let her rant for a bit because honestly, I was too stunned to respond. But when she started blaming my fiance, I had enough. I told her, "This is not about him. This is about me finally setting boundaries because I am tired of being treated like a child. I am not trying to hurt you, but I need you to respect my decisions." Her response? "I do respect you, but you are making a huge mistake." I ended the call. I could feel myself getting angrier by the second, and I knew if I stayed on, I would say something I would regret. But of course, that was not the end of it. Later that afternoon, my fiance and I were out running errands when we bumped into one of my mom's church friends, the same woman my mom had invited to the wedding without asking me. She came right up to us, all smiles, and started talking about how excited she was for the wedding. She even mentioned that she and my mom were working on something special for the big day. I felt my stomach drop, and when we got home, I called my mom again. I asked her point blank what her friend was talking about. At first, she tried to play dumb, but when I pushed, she finally admitted that she had been planning a surprise blessing for the reception. She said, "I thought it would be a beautiful way to bring everyone together and remind them of what really matters." I lost it. I told her, "Mom, this is why I set boundaries. You keep doing things behind my back and pretending it is for my benefit. It is not. It is about you trying to control everything. This is my wedding, not yours. If you cannot respect that, you will not be part of it." She started crying again and said, "I just wanted to do something meaningful for you. Why are you shutting me out?" I hung up because I could not handle it anymore. My fiance and I talked that night, and we have agreed that if she tries to pull anything else, she will not be welcome at the wedding. It is a harsh line to draw, but at this point, what else can we do? Every time I think we are making progress, she finds a new way to cross the line. I am so tired. The constant drama and manipulation are draining, but I know I have to stick to my boundaries. This is not just about the wedding anymore. It is about taking control of my life and protecting my mental health. For now, the plan is the same. A small ceremony, a dinner with close family, and nothing else. My fiancé has been my rock through all of this, and I do not know what I would do without him. I will keep you posted if, and let us be honest, when something else happens. Wish me luck, I am going to need it.